Welcome back. The question we're asking is whether it's possible to give an account of the intentionality of mental states like beliefs and desires in terms of natural phenomena in the world that don't already have or include intentionality. And we considered co-location in space and time, similarity or picturing, and causal relations. Now we're wondering which causal relations, if any, might do the job. The problem is that lots of things cause lots of other things, but it's not the case that everything is about all of its causes or has all of its causes as its intentional content. We don't want to say, for example, that the total state of the universe at this moment is about the Big Bang or has the Big Bang as its intentional object. Smoke is often caused by fire, but we don't want to say that smoke is about fire any more than we want to say that smoke is about the match that was used to light the fire. At the same time, my mental states are sometimes about things that are not their causes, as when I see an animal in the distance and form a belief that there's a cow on the hillside, but it turns out to be a large dog. This doesn't make my cow thoughts be about large dogs or both cows and large dogs. It's just a mistake. Sometimes cow beliefs are caused by things that aren't cows. Which are the right causal relations from which we might build up intentional relations? There are two clues in the above considerations. Although smoke is not about fire in the sense of having fire as its meaning or intentional content, it's still true that smoke can be evidence of fire, and so the presence of smoke can indicate the presence of fire. Put another way, the presence of the smoke carries information about the presence of fire. Now, carrying information is still not intentionality. Any piece of metal may expand and contract with the ambient temperature and thereby carry information about temperature. But we don't want to say that the expansion of the metal is about the temperature just so. One reason is that the content of a mental state can be right or wrong, but the expansion of a piece of metal is not by itself right or wrong. So content seems to have correctness requirements that mere causes don't. As Karen Neander explains it in the article I asked you to read, intentional content is normative, by which she means that it can be evaluated as meeting or failing to meet certain standards, rules, or norms. The norm of normativity in this usage is not the norm or average. Instead, it's the normal or correct as being in accord with rules and requirements. Putting one's elbows on the dinner table is normal for small children and many adults, but it violates the norm or rule of etiquette, at least in many parts of the United States. And so, putting one's elbows on the dinner table is a behavior for which we may correct our children. Intentional content is normative in this second sense. It's the kind of thing that can be right or wrong, that can be corrected. This is what Neander calls the problem of error, but it's more usually called the problem of misrepresentation. An adequate theory of intentional content has to explain how some mental states can have the wrong content, not just the right content. So we're looking for a causal relationship that has these two features. The effect carries information about the cause, and the effect can be mistaken. That is, it can be caused in the wrong way. There are two main strategies for solving the misrepresentation problem, for explaining how one thing can be about another, thereby having intentional content, and how its intentional content could also be wrong. One strategy appeals to similarity and resemblance, and the other appeals to the history and origins of a thing. Both strategies appeal to the existence of functions in the world, and so we can think of them as broadly functionalist theories of intentionality. The most well-known solution that does not appeal to history or origins is the so-called asymmetric dependency theory advanced by Jerry Fodor. Fodor begins with the core idea shared by all causal accounts that we can build up a theory of intentional content from the causal relations in the world because effects carry information about their causes. This informational content isn't yet intentional content because it can't be wrong. Although you yourself could draw a mistaken inference about fire on the basis of smoke, the smoke itself can't be said to be mistaken or wrong. The smoke didn't misrepresent the fire, even though you might have been misled by the smoke. So what makes my cow belief about cows? The idea, roughly put, is that my cow belief is about cows because it's caused by cows and it does the cow job in my cognitive economy. That is, it has the causal function of enabling me to interact with the world in cow-appropriate ways. Cow beliefs mediate between cow inputs and cow outputs. That's what makes them cow beliefs. and they do the belief job rather than the desire job, and that's what makes them beliefs rather than desires. But my cow belief is also sometimes caused by large dogs. So why is my cow belief not also about large dogs? Here the idea is that my cow beliefs would not be caused by large dogs were they not caused by cows. It's the fact that large dogs can sometimes resemble cows when viewed from a distance that explains, in this case, why large dogs sometimes cause cow beliefs. But that only happens because cow beliefs are caused by cows. Put another way, cow beliefs would not be caused by large dogs were they not caused by cows, but they would be caused by cows even if they weren't caused by large dogs. So, as the story goes, my cow beliefs asymmetrically depend on cows rather than large dogs, and that's why they're about cows rather than large dogs. We don't have time to explore the asymmetric dependence theory in detail. Here, I'll just mention one line of thought that leads some philosophers to an alternative functionalist approach. The concern is that the asymmetric dependence theory takes for granted that we can identify the belief role and, moreover, the cow belief role. How do we do that? Critics say that without such an explanation, the theory is incomplete. Furthermore, they say, if we explain those kinds of roles by appeal to the natural or biological functions of mental states, which they think is a good idea, if we do that, then we might as well toss out the complication of the asymmetric dependence theory and let the natural or biological functions do the work all on their own. That's the thought that leads Ruth Millikan, Fred Dretske, David Papineau, Karen Neander, and others to advance the so-called teleofunctionalist theory of content, or teleosemantics. Before you proceed to the next lesson, take a look at sections 2 to 3 from Karen Neander's paper, Biological Approaches to Mental Representation.